What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL Salah to have a look back at Game Week 1 first of all, before looking ahead to Game Week 2. Abdul, a pleasure to have you on, my friend, and I think it's very important and apt that we have you on because your team does have a couple of sort of conundrums, especially the fact that you have Quansah in your team, so I'm very interested to see how a veteran like yourself is planning on dealing with that player in particular. But yeah, first of all, let's talk about Game Week 1. Let's have a look back at your team. Not the best start, but it's only 1 week.
Yeah, hi Jack. Hi to all the viewers as well. Yeah, it's I was saying to you off camera as well. I think this is probably one of the worst game weeks I've had. Game week 1 I've had, kind of rank wise since I started playing. But still early days. It wasn't a disaster. 50, 7 points. I think there's something like 20 points between there'll be like about 20 points between 3 million and top 10k right now, just with how bunched up they are. So rank is pretty much irrelevant at the moment. I think what is most important is having a good team, having like a fit team and a good team for the weeks ahead, which at the moment for me is looking a bit sketchy. So yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, just in terms of the actual players that did well, Porro, you got to be happy with that. Porro and Trent, to be fair, the attacking fullbacks, Trent keeping a clean sheet as well, which don't really have him there for his clean sheets. But if he's gonna, if Liverpool are going to be more solid defensively, that's obviously a bonus. And yeah, Porro, to be fair, making a bad week not so bad in the end. That must have been nice.
Yeah, it was. It was good to sign off the game like that because it was disaster before that. He just made it a bit less of a bad game week, as you just said. So yeah, I mean, I'm still happy with my picks, to be honest. Like, I don't regret any of my picks, apart from one. I did have Chris Wood for Armstrong until about 5 minutes before the deadline. I was just between him, Muniz, and Armstrong, and I just kind of, wasn't. I mean, it was a kind of Nketiah news that really put me off Wood. And that does seem to be kind of picking up steam now as well. So I guess, it was could still be a good decision, but so far not a good outcome.
Yeah, I mean, Wood had one shot the entire game and scored, whereas Armstrong looked pretty threatening. To be fair, was definitely more involved.
And you got 90 minutes as well, so that's a win. You got 90 minutes. Wood and Muniz both got 75. So it's always silver linings there.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I've got your team up on screen now.
Yeah.
On Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool, still looks pretty solid. Team rating 93%. There are a couple of issues in there though. Let's just start with the big one and what your thoughts are on Quansah.
Yeah, so with Quansah, I think I've decided I'm gonna keep him.
Okay.
I have been thinking all week, what to do because he's probably gonna fall in price. I'd say tonight or tomorrow, right? I was looking at the hub kind of prediction, the price rise tool earlier on, and it does look like he's going to fall in price, very soon. But I just think, Slot took him off. He did say it was tactical, even he's losing too many duels. That's not to say he won't start against, Brentford. I have seen, people talking about, Brentford's kind of aerial threat, and it does look more likely that Kanate will start. But I don't know. I mean, and the fact I've got Porro there as well, who's a doubt. We don't know the extent of his injury. He could be a possible issue as well. So I'm not going to be making early transfers. If Porro is declared fit and Quansah doesn't drop in price, then by Friday, which I think is quite unlikely, then I could possibly make that move. But if he falls in price, then I've got 0 in the bank, so I can't really move to another 4.5 million defender. So I'll probably have to end up keeping him, and realistically, and then just reassess next week. So I've kind of, early transfers, I kind of thought maybe, there's quite a few options like, Lewis Hall, Rico Lewis, Mikalenko, Robinson. He probably would be at the top of my list, to be honest, if I was to make the transfer, the Fulham defender.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I think I'm going to keep him.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a really tough one to know what to do this season, especially with the rule change as well. In terms of the free transfers. Yeah,
and just one thing I want to mention that on Jack as well is that if I keep him, and it looks like he's probably gonna, because Slot, he was quite direct with, why.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, or I'm hoping, he's going to be quite direct with his team news as well. Like, he might even tell us, if Kanate starts or Quansah starts. And if he does tell us that Quansah's not going to start, then I've got Hardwood Bellis there, and that's like one little pick I was quite happy about, because I went with him over Barco because of the signings that kind of Brighton made and Estupinian being back in training. So I had Barco in all pre-season, kind of took him out with a heavy heart for Hardwood Bellis, and I went with him because Southampton do have some good fixtures in the first 10, so it was just in case I needed him. And this is exactly what's happened now. I probably will need him in game week 2. And and that probably will allow me to actually save a transfer rather than being forced into making one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, just to explain, obviously, because we are very early on in the season, and there are probably a lot of new managers out there. What I'm looking at here is what we've been talking about already. But this is Fantasy Football Hub's price change predictions. Mm-hmm. Now, this is actually, I think, one of the worst things about Fantasy Premier League is that price changes happen and there is no transparency from FPL Towers as to when and where they will happen. I don't really understand why that is part of the game, given that everything else is so transparent, but whatever. So websites like Fantasy Football Hub have to try and predict when these price changes might happen based on when players are sold, their price can go down, and when they're bought, their price will go up. Now, as you can see up here, the price accuracy is 97.6%. So we're very good at predicting when a player is gonna rise and fall. And Quansah here, you see at minus 67.79% at the time of recording. When that number goes to minus 100% or more, that is when we think he will drop in price to 4.4 million. So right now at the time of recording, we're expecting that to be tomorrow. But if you want to keep checking this as that number probably gets closer to minus 100, then the link to do so for free is down below in the description. That's just how you got to monitor it if you're a Quansah owner. Obviously, right now at the start of the season, price changes are potentially the most important ever, right? Because, yeah, a 0.1 drop for a play like that means you are locked out of a whole sort of price range of all those 4.5 million defenders that Abdul's just been talking about. But yeah, let's get back to your team then and talk about the 4.0 million players. I've got Barco. I'm not entirely sure what to do with him. I've got some cover here, but yeah, I'd probably rather have someone like Hardwood Bellis, who's actually got a pretty good fixture this week, as you just said.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing with the 4 million defenders, Jack, is I think it's a wee bit different to 4.5s. I think there's a lot less value in using the transfer on a 4 million defender, because unless you've gone with 4 million defenders, then and you've got a Quansah there, then you might be forced into kind of making one. But I think if I had Barco, I would probably keep and start him and just hope he starts, because there were some rumours that he picked up a little bit of a knock. He didn't get any minutes. It was quite odd that he played so many minutes pre-season, played so well, taking set pieces, and then got 0 minutes. So I think I'm inclined to believe those kind of the news and rumours that he did have a little bit of a knock. Which is why he didn't play. I mean, surely he would have come on for some minutes,
Yeah, once the game is won, I was very surprised. He's on the bench. I mean, I was shocked. I started him this week. I was very, very surprised that he didn't come on, and that leads me to believe, even though we've not really heard anything concrete, that there must have been something going on there, because surely he would have. Hinshelwood hasn't actually played that much in pre-season at all.
He
comparatively, just looking at the minutes. So surely for fitness reasons, he'd come on at left back, but yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, and I do think it was probably is that. And if he was on the bench, then obviously it kind of indicates that the injury isn't too serious, so possibly could start against Man United. Yeah. So yeah, if I had Barco, I would be keeping him. I think actually just even looking at it, I think Quansah is probably a bigger problem than Barco right now. When you could take into consideration their prices as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Okay, let's move on to midfield. 2 players that blanked but had sort of differing game weeks, I would say. Bruno Fernandes and Nkunku. I'm happy to leave Eze for now. I think he was very good. He could easily have hauled. Let's not talk about him for too long. Maybe the same with Bruno, to be fair.
Yeah, Bruno was unlucky. He had, I think 2 big chances, which when I was watching the game, I didn't watch the full game, but he missed 2 gilt-edged chances, and he was in the right positions. It was frustrating as an owner, but in hindsight, or after the event, it's still quite encouraging that he's getting into those positions. He wasn't sitting deep. He wasn't not involved. He was the kind of integral part in that team. Which so I'm happy in keeping him. I'm happy with the pick, and I just think I mentioned this in the game week 1 video as well. He's just such a reliable asset. you know what you're getting. You're getting 90 minutes. You're getting penalties. You're getting goals and assists, and I think those will come. So I'm happy with Bruno. I think he's just fine just sitting there.
And then moving on to Nkunku. Now he might be a little bit more of a worry. Didn't play particularly well. I mean, from a Chelsea fan's perspective, left wing is not his best position. It's funny, even when he came a little bit inside, drifting off that touchline, you could see that is where he excels. Like, tight spaces, quick touches, very, very fast feet and link up play. When he had those sort of one-on-one opportunities on the left, and it just didn't really convince me in terms of what a clear, idea that he had in his mind of what he was going to do. And yeah, obviously got hooked before the 60th minute mark, which was still very surprising. Is he a worry at all going forward?
I'm not worried about him just yet. I do think because it was Man City, the setup, best team in the league. The setup might have been a bit different than in the easier fixtures. I think Fernandes was in the number 10 position. I don't know if he will probably do that again against in the easier fixtures. He probably will play Nkunku in his best position. Obviously now João Felix is signed as well, so that obviously is a further dent in his minutes. But I think with Nkunku, it's not ideal situation. I did expect him to get subbed off early, not that early though.
Yeah,
maybe around about 70, 65 to 70 possibly. But I think with the fixtures, it's worth giving him another few weeks at the very least. Looking at Chelsea's good games coming up. I guess maybe 3 or 4 more game weeks, and if he's still coming off early and not performing, then I'll start to worry. But right now, I'm not too worried, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do expect him to play a little bit more central. And Enzo didn't play well in that number 10 role. I don't think that's his best position. Before we talk about captaincy this week, and in particular, I want to get your thoughts on triple captaincy. Let's just have a look at your AI recommended transfers for this week. Now, if you guys don't know what this is, I've talked about it all preseason long, but this is where it really comes to the fore, and it's necessary, I think, to have a look at something like this to give you an idea of what potentially you could do with your team. But this is AI recommended transfers personalized to your team, which you'll get every single week by signing up to Fantasy Football Hub. If you haven't yet done so, the link is down in the description and the pinned comment. It's still 50% off at the time of recording, so do not miss out on that. The recommendation here is actually not to sell Quansah, it's to bank your free transfer, which probably suggests that you have enough depth to get away with that, and to be patient. If you did want to sell Quansah, there is an alternative option, and that is to go with a 4.5 million defender. It's actually Cash, not a player that you mentioned. I'm not sure what you think about Cash as an option, but he's looking pretty good for predicted points. But first of all, does that give you a bit of confidence to remain patient with Quansah and not rush him out?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely thought that the tool would recommend a transfer and for Quansah. So the fact that the primary one is to save, which was my initial thought as well, is good. With the Cash transfer, I think obviously it's probably slightly over predicting his minutes because he started in game week 1, and then from game week 3, like Villa's fixtures are absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it's just probably kind of kind of just planning in advance really. But I wouldn't be interested in the Cash transfer. I've already got Quansah there as for my Villa player. But I'm happy that it's recommending saving transfer because that's what I'm planning to do.
It's a funny one, Cash, because he's not. I don't think I would recommend him personally either. But if his place is more secure, there's no doubt he is more attacking than a Quansah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or than maybe even a Robinson. I mean, he plays for a better team than Robinson. This is a Champions League team now that we're talking about. If you do think his minutes are more secure than they were last year, there's no doubt he's a good pick. It's just whether he is or not. Whether he's secured for minutes or not. But let's now talk about triple captaincy, because I do want to get your thoughts on this. And I'm not even just asking you this for the sake of asking you it for the video.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different sort of season to a few that we've had in the past, where we've known that we're going to have quite a few doubles and blanks later on in the year. This year, we don't have that as much. So just is there anything in your mind that's saying, okay, actually, we've got Ipswich at home here, which is probably the best single game week fixture we'll get all season for the most, impactful, the most prolific player in the league. If we're not 100% sure that we are going to get enough double game weeks to use all our chips in later on in the year, especially with this mystery chip that none of us know what it is Is there an argument to potentially use the triple captainship this week?
Yeah, I think if there's ever a season that, to use the triple captain in a single game week, it's this one because of the, potentially only getting 2 double game weeks and not as big. And Ipswich at home, as far as single game weeks go, it's probably that or Southampton, at home, which is going to be the best fixtures. So yeah, it is tempting because a lot depends on that mystery chip as well, because we don't know what that's going to be, whether it's going to be like if it's something like, say, for example, an unlimited chip, like, which is pretty much like a free hit, then, you're going to want to use that in one of the double game weeks. And then you've got your bench boost as well, which you'll want to use in the double game week. And if you've only got 2 double game weeks, then that does leave the triple captain to be used outside that, because that is the weakest chip out of the three, if that was the case. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a viable option. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea to do it, but I still think it's worth holding on to it just in case. We get more double game weeks, or there's unprecedented events like cancellations, which might cause another one. I just think in that case, for me, that's what I do, because I do err on the side of caution, kind of naturally. But if you're an aggressive manager, and there is literally not a better game week in the season to do it in a single game week, so I think a lot of people will do it this week.
Yeah, I genuinely am slightly tempted. I probably am not going to do it, but I do think this is the best time to play Ipswich probably all season as well. I mean, just looking at the second half against Liverpool, if they play the same sort of way, they're going to get absolutely torn apart later in the game by City. Yeah. I just don't see any other way that's going to happen. Sometimes when you get these promoted teams, that have had a great season, not just last season for Ipswich, but obviously the season before, they will stick to their principles earlier on in the season before then, being forced, to be honest, at some point to change. Well, to be fair to Luton, they did sort of stick to their guns, but yeah, a lot of the time we see these sort of possession-based teams come up, start that way again, it not work out, then they go more defensive. I do think Ipswich are still going to be, on the front foot. We saw them against Liverpool, man for man marking, and then they sort of ran out of legs and got cut open a little bit when Liverpool opened up a bit second half.
They've got a certain method of playing which they don't kind of compromise. I think that makes them a good team as well. I think they'll win a few games and keep a few points. But against City, it's a risk of getting kind of rolled over. There is one thing as well which HAALAND said, which kind of would incline me towards using the triple captain, was that he says this is the first time in ages in which he's been like totally injury free. I don't know if you've seen that quote, but he said that it kind of pushes you. He's saying that it encourages him to kind of push it to the limit, because he's not got something in the back of his mind. So again, that's just something that is in his favour for the triple captain this week as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if HAALAND scores a hat trick or scores 4 goals and gets a big monster scored. But yeah, I think I'll probably give it a miss this week.
No, I think I'm inclined to do the same, but it is one of those that I'll probably look back on at the end of the season and think, yeah, this was the week where you could have got the most out of triple captain, but it's tough not to play it in a double, or at least plan to play it in a double, just when there are six bonus points available, more appearance points available. But
it's a psychological thing as well, like using your chip in the second game week. Something happens, it's like you just feel more safe having all your chips.
Yeah,
because just in case you're doing bad, or I think, I've still got all my chips to use. So yeah, it's the kind of aspect of that as well, to be honest.
One of my mates, who's a very good fantasy player, he came in like the top 200 or something last year, and he used his bench boost this Gameweek 1 this year, and it's top 5k. Well. It just went well. He got 19 points from it. He said, that's probably more than I'd expect to get from it later in the season, or it's a very good bench boost score. And he's like, I'm done with it now. I don't have to plan. He just doesn't really play the same way as me and you, to be fair. Where I agree, like you want to use it later in those doubles, but for him it's worked out, and you'd take 18, 19, 20 points from a bench boost.
I was just going to say that I would have took that all day long. If I could turn back time, I would have took that and then had the bench boost out of the way.
Exactly. So there are different ways to play the game, and triple captain this week may well be the play. But just wanted to ask you about that, as I do think it could be a serious consideration for a lot of guys
and I think it's going to be a talking point this week.
Yeah,
sure. As I said, I think quite a few people will do it.
Anyway, thank you, Abdul, for the tips and advice. Very much appreciated. Guys, If you do want to check out the price changes, especially if you're a Quansah owner, and those AI recommended transfers as well, make sure to click the link in the description. We will catch you next week for to see how Abdul's teams got on and for some game week 3 planning. But yeah, best of luck this week, and we will see you on the next one.